Builders or fixers? 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 94 of the Shower Podcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and it's still crazy to me how recording 10 minutes still feels like such a chore and such a dreadful task after almost 100 episodes. I really should just, when I have 10 minutes, I know what I want to say. I should just sit down and go with it. And yet every time I procrastinated until the last moment. Thankfully today, since my plans might have changed, I am kind of forced to do it right now in order to do the episode. And the real reason of this podcast, comes alive because it is a way for me to be accountable and understand that it's okay to do things when you should do them and not wait until the last moment. Still working on that. And maybe by the end of this journey, I will be a better person. But yeah, who knows? After this small moment about myself, let's get to the core of the episode of today. We are a bit riding the AI wave. A lot of the episodes that we recently did were a bit about those topics, but it is an interest that I've always had, but I'm kind of, thinking broadly, specifically from a professional point of view, what are the implications of these things being here? Because again, they are, as I imagine most of you already use them, they are already very, very useful, but again, they stay as tools. And as I've discussed also in other episodes, it's something that you should be using if you already have something to give. The moment that you are just relying on them and you don't have anything to add extra, it's a problem. And I would like to classify, let's say, and expand a bit this kind of attitude into these two categories that I mentioned: being a builder or a fixer. And I would like to explain to you why, down the line, being a builder will be such an important factor compared to being a fixer. So let me explain to you why I think that. When we think of a fixer, it's just somebody that gets presented with a situation and tries to, let's say, just do the job that it's being asked. You have a task, you have to solve it, and you rinse and repeat that. And I think that for a lot of technical jobs, again, I'm speaking, let's say, frankly, from the view of a relatively not so junior anymore, but not even fully senior engineer, that most of the times when you join a company or whatever thing you're trying to do, there's already a lot of stuff happening around you and you're like, okay, you have to fix this thing for me because I don't have time. And this, again, falls most of the time into these more technical challenges. And previously, to a few years ago, it still required you to, let's say, acquire a lot of knowledge and still be relatively, let's say, experienced, because once you're proposed with the challenge, with the problem, you either have seen it from experience, but as we have just said, you are relatively new to the job, so your experience is maybe restricted to what you saw in university. And the other alternative is just, the World Wide Web. But again, also there, you need the skills to understand how to match your real problem with what you find online. And finally, the most, let's say, critical resource is your personal knowledge and critical thinking. So how are you able to apply those things to solve the problem? And this kind of skill was relatively searched for and has always been relatively important, if not, at the same level of a builder. The builder, it's, let's say, usually it comes from a person that has way more experience, has gathered a very complete knowledge of what systems can look like. And again, this can be expanded even outside of computer science and, let's say, engineering. It's, I think, in any industry where you work in or any kind of hobby that you have picked up, there is the people that build stuff, that create platforms, that give you, let's say, the environment in which the fixers have to then work into. And I see kind of a trend, and down the line, I really believe that these two figures will combine, but under the figure of the builder and not of the fixer. Why do I say that? Because the effort of the builder to actually fix stuff can be, let's say, exponentially reduced compared to the past because of these tools, you know? The moment that you are able to have an agent, an assistant, or let's say these alternative AI engineers that you just prompt them with something, they give you a general assessment, they give you a potential solution, and even though if it's not necessarily what you needed in that specific, it doesn't work like just by, you know, like magic, you just plop it in and it works. That is not the point. The point is doing maybe 70% of the work, you know, adding on these, adding as a builder and as an experienced person, you know, these, the things that are needed to actually make it fit to the real case scenario that you have, and then you go forward. And most of your time is can be dedicated to the creation, you know, to actually bringing stuff that can be really useful for whatever job you're doing. And it's kind of scary because I see a bit of a, you know, of a short circuit in this philosophy, because it is true that down the line these builders will be much more needed than the fixers, but at the same time, how do you build how do you, sorry for the for the words, how do you make a builder without the fixer? And this is it's a real problem. I mean, you know, again, going back into the computer science example, how do you build a dev and like a senior engineer and a senior dev if you don't have the juniors, you know, that are not that experienced, that make a lot of mistakes, but that down the line, you know, grow into something better? It's a real question, because at the same time, you know, when you are, let's say, just starting, what should you do? What are your options? It's very scary, the fact that we are, let's say, removing this learning process. And I see it with a lot of practices. Again, be it art, be it music, be it a lot of things that nowadays, you know, at least in this rise of these tools that are able to anybody, you know, just create this and it does it. It doesn't do it perfectly. And again, if you give these tools to somebody that actually knows how to adjust with experience those results, they are fantastic. But if you give them to somebody that doesn't really know what to do, the best thing that they can do is mock the behavior of somebody that is good. But there is such a big difference. And the problem, you know, to summarize, is that I struggle to see the environments in which you can thrive and actually learn and improve as an inexperienced person. So, I don't know. It will be a world full of builders, I guess. And that is fantastic because, again, on paper, you know, you don't have to struggle so much about doing, but you can think about creating, which is nice. But at the same time, what should the others do, you know? As I like to say, you know, not everybody can become a doctor. And there's a reason why it's so hard, because not everybody is willing to go through that process and put in the hours to become something that it's so complex. Maybe there's just going to be a full redistribution, you know, there's going to be chores and activities that will be much more searched for because there isn't an alternative. Whereas there will be many others that will just have so many alternatives that are better, faster, and cheaper. Then, you know, you'll just have to adapt. Again, it's always hard to project yourself into the future and understand. But at the same time, I still do believe that there is the necessity to find a trend, to project a bit, at least your perception and your plan, you know, down the line. Because if you don't know what you're doing and if you're just waiting for things to happen, well, when they will happen and they will change, you will not be happy because, you haven't thought about it and you don't have a plan. I don't know. These were my 2 cents on this topic. Again, it's something that came to my mind these days, being exposed to this AI bubble. Let me know your opinion in the comments. I know that among the let's say the listeners of the podcast, there are a lot of my friends that are engineers specifically in this realm. So this time I would really, let's say, encourage you to use this platform and the comment section to expand upon your views. How do you see it? Maybe if you think I'm wrong, if you see another take on it, I'm very interested to see you debate. Having said that, it's definitely more than shower time now. Thank you very much for listening. This was episode 94 of the Shower Podcast, and see you at the next one.